Okay, Nick, my man,
What do we got?
OpenAI, big tender announcement this past week at a $500 billion valuation, right? So that's up 66% from the $300 billion valuation that they announced earlier this year. So that's quite an uptick. And this is a tender round. So it looks like $1.5 billion for existing shareholders in this tender. Thrive Capital is going to participate. So that's probably money good. Like Thrive is in it. Those guys do big deals. So that's kind of on point. ARR is estimated at 20 billion by December 2025. So that's if they pull through and they deliver on that, that's a 25x, I'll call it forward revenue multiple, which isn't crazy, right? But what do you think about OpenAI? It's a big race now. Who's going to hit $1 trillion first? Is it OpenAI? Is it SpaceX? Like, what do you think, man? Like, what do you think about this tender offer, the $500 billion valuation?
Sure. So I think, yeah, OpenAI could hit that $1 trillion valuation first. It's just, there's a lot more volatility at play. And the fact that this is a tender offer is bringing a different dynamic. So tender offer, for anyone that's kind of hopping to this podcast late, is really bringing money towards the existing shareholders for an exit or to transfer those shares or sell their shares into a new buyer, which is Thrive in this case, along with a few others. And, that changes the dynamic a little bit because it's less money going to the company, more to, make everybody happy that's been an employee and put in the blood, sweat, and tears into growing a rather dynamic company, to say the least. So it'll be interesting to see if anybody departs after this. They get a bit of money in their back pocket. Maybe they want to go on to something new. I know we're talking about Cohere later, something
Right.
a little bit different than OpenAI. So I actually think that's a super attractive valuation for any existing shareholder to take an exit if they want, or at least pare back and take a bit of money off the table. And it's also not an unreasonable entry point for someone like a Thrive, that really has a long dated interest in where this company can go in the big arms race. So yeah, I think it's a bit of a win-win situation here with that valuation, which is still, like you said, it's a remarkably higher than the last round they did, and somewhere in between really where that last round was, then the secondary. And then if you put a layer on top of that, you're a little bit closer to that 400, 450. So it's not a big reach here.
Right.
So I'm actually curious if the secondary market will snap up to that in the next 2 months.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. I mean, it's like fascinating how fast the valuation has grown. I mean, it was like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, this thing was at 150 billion. They did that $150 billion valuation round. So, I mean, this is an incredible jump. But the revenue's been ramping, right? So, like, 25x revenue yield is not crazy.
That's exactly how I'd look at it. So, if I'm gonna really
but
say,
Nick, hold on, just while on that point though, like they're at 10 billion right now. So like, not for nothing, they got to go from 10 billion right now to 20 billion by the end of the year. That's like no joke. That's a doubling of revenue in like 5-6 months time. That's quite a feat in and of itself, right?
Right. But even if they don't hit that, their revenue multiple from kind of throughout all of 2024 was between around 30 to 50.
Right.
So just the fact that they're around that 25 mark, it's still pretty attractive given how fast they're growing. And the TAM is just so massive to take over search, to take over, the way people are using these LLMs.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair play. It's an attractive multiple, and that's the right way to look at a lot of these stocks.
Well, I mean, I will tell you, man, the amount of revenue, especially compared to some of the other large language model providers, I mean, these guys are like gobbling up the whole market. Like, I think Anthropic is probably the next closest, and they're doing really well on the revenue side, right? But XAI is just getting started on that front. Cohere, which we're going to talk about in a minute, is like looking at, a couple $100 million of revenue. Like, that's like pales in comparison. So, I mean, these guys, if they in fact go
at a couple $100 million, yeah.
I know it's like everything's relative, right? But but 10 to 20 billion. I mean, this is going to be pretty impressive to see. I mean, they're talking like $100 billion, $120 billion revenue ARR numbers by 2029. I mean, that's wild, right? That's a lot of that's like Google level type amounts of revenue, right? Pretty shocking. So we'll see. But at any rate, it's going to be fun to mark this one up. Right?
For sure. But yeah, I just recall last night I was using OpenAI just because it was what I had to hand, and I guess I was at it for a little while, and I didn't log in, and it did prompt me with a paywall. It said, if you want to keep going with whatever you're up to right now, you're gonna have to pay us some money. I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh
It's probably
wow.
time to close the laptop anyways.
Oh yeah, sure. That's
But
fun.
yeah,
That's pretty funny.
that's where people are going to find so much value. And when you hit that wall, you realize the amount of value it brings you.
Right,
Because
right, right.
whatever I was up to, I knew it would have taken me a day of my time anyways.
Yeah,
So everybody should be willing to pay that money. And, you know, if I'm going to pay a subscription or be bludgeoned to death by watching 1,000 ads, I'd much prefer to pay a subscription.
yeah.
So,
That's
but
well
yeah,
said.
if they can rival revenue of a Google at some point, I'm actually pretty bullish about that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I prefer the subscription based model versus, where you are the product, right? And your data is the
Right.
product. I think that's I'm with you on that. Okay, let's talk about Cohere. So Cohere is a large language model business, AI large language model business as well, competes with OpenAI and the rest. It's smaller, Canadian firm. And they have a different approach. I mean, they came out of the gates, they solely focused on B2B channel, right? Which naturally, I mean, in my opinion, businesses haven't even really like fully adopted AI in a proper way, but we'll get to that in a second. So they did 500 million at a $6.8 billion valuation. What's interesting about this, Nick, and I think you're uniquely positioned to discuss this, being the CEO of PM Insights, is the secondary. I had the secondary market valuation at like 4.4 billion. So it's trading at a discount, right, to the last round, which was at a $5.5 billion valuation. And this new round is coming in at 6.8. So if you were taking a position like currently at the current secondary market price, you're looking at like a really attractive return here if in fact the market starts to trade up. But like, what are your thoughts? Like, is it, I was taking this as it's trading at a discount because it's like not really keeping pace with the open AIs. There's not a lot of buzz around these guys like there is with XAI. You don't really hear their name kind of mentioned very much, but they're kind of digging in and like really working with companies and helping them implement AI. It's a very different model, right, than I think the other firms are looking at. So like, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that? Is like, can you in fact dig in with a company and help them implement AI, but also be a closed model provider like Cohere? Or is that just, you don't need your own models? You can just use open source models and do that same kind of service, right? Like, what do you think about that? Or maybe most importantly, what do you just think about the secondary market valuation, right?
Sure.
And
Let's
and
start
having
with
it traded at a discount, then we're kind of coming in at a premium to the last round.
yeah, I think that's a good place to start. We'll start with the valuation, and maybe some of this unpacks why they haven't grown, at the same rate as some of the rest. So very quickly, and I'll pop this into the comments
Okay.
section once we post this. But Cohere for the last 1 year, last 12 months is down 5%, whilst OpenAI, Perplexity, and Anthropic are up 170, 344, and 253 respectively. So, I mean, it's just really getting left in the dust in terms of returns. And that from a revenue perspective, they're all kind of singing a somewhat similar song, with the exception of Perplexity. So between Anthropic, OpenAI, and Cohere, they're between about 25 and 45.
Okay.
However, with Cohere being purely B2B, I think we need to focus and see if they're going to be successful with the long game, because it will take them a whole lot longer to ramp up and have those businesses fully ingrained onto their platform,
Right.
which will be very different than someone that does B2C and B2B together, which will be the other three that I mentioned.
Right. Right.
So if they have success here, you're operating in a bit more of a closed system. You're not letting if you're really clever about your security with any of them, you shouldn't be having your data going out in the world to train. But with Cohere, I think you have a tighter ecosystem to manipulate, which could be to your benefit for businesses working with that and maybe with some of the others. And if they are operating in some regards differently, because I know Evan and I both kind of jive on this, we're not just going to use one LLM. We're going to use a
Right.
couple and see how we arrive and make
Yeah.
sure that the end result gets us to a better place. So I think Cohere is probably just playing the long game, and maybe they're kicking themselves a little bit for leaving money on the table for the short term.
Right.
But if this works out, it is a pretty attractive one because the valuation is just dwarfed by the other three.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it kind of begs the question, like in the long run, if this is $100 billion, $150 billion company, like this entry point's incredible, especially if they can deliver those kind of returns in like the next 5 to 7 years. That's like it would be really attractive. There's just, I don't know, I'm like a little concerned. Like, you get like some of the other large language model providers out there where they're just gobbling up market share. Now, to your point, that may not translate. The direct to consumer market share may not translate to B2B market share, but there's this component of brand, right? And like risk around the, provider that you're going to partner with too. So like, I don't know. I just Cohere, Cohere, I have under research coverage. I just, the CEO is like a very smart guy. I've heard him talk a couple different times. Really smart
As
guy.
opposed to the CEOs of the other AI companies, right?
No, I mean they're all like
No.
smart. You know what I mean? But like he's a thoughtful guy, and like even though like you're right, he's taking a very different approach, right? So like I just wonder if that is in fact the right approach, or if it's going to be like too little, too late because the other people have like run away with it. You're just too far behind,
But the growth rate is still so impressive. So
It is impressive. Yeah.
if you weren't to compare it directly to those, I mean, anybody that's moving from, what did you say, 70 million to 200,
Yeah.
by year end,
Yeah.
that's all right for a company that's already raised a couple $1 billion.
Yeah,
So
it's true. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Okay, let's wrap us up here today with n8n. Okay, so this is like what I would call layman's terms, AI agents for dummies, right? So if you're familiar with like Zapier is maybe the closest kind of parallel to this business where you can set up like workflows, right? Or zaps, they call them zaps. Like you seamlessly connect your different solutions that you use, and you can kind of kick off different tasks automatically. And that's effectively what n8n does, right? But using AI, right? So you can connect it to your email, you can connect it to different, solutions you have, QuickBooks, whatever, right? And as like certain events happen, it will kick off these things. The AI will come in and do something and then execute a result. So it's super intriguing, I think, right? But this company is growing quite a lot, right? So Excel is leading this new round. They're up from so the round's going to be at 2.3 billion pre-money. That's up from $350 million valuation 4 months ago. Okay. So these guys have 50,000 customers. They got some big ones like Siemens. Also, they're doing over 40 million ARR as of Q2 2025, right? So the reason I brought these guys up, one, the valuations increases, like I think super interesting, but also two, I think, like I'm in the constant search of like finding out how like people, small businesses, medium-sized businesses, or even like large organizations are actually going to implement AI. And this kind of an app, like this is an AI app, what I would call an AI app, right? But it's focused on AI agents. This like helps a guy like me I'm not like very proficient in, coding. I know enough to be dangerous, but it's certainly not enough for these types of applications.
Right.
I can now like leverage AI in a more bespoke way and create these effective agents. And it can really add a lot of value to me. Right. So like, I guess my thought, Nick, is like, you guys are a technology company. Do you think are you guys like standing up AI agents per se? Or do you think that using some type of technology like this would be helpful to you guys in any way? Or maybe just commenting more broadly about the broader business community.
So we are testing agents generally, right? But you have to wonder, is an agent for everything going to work fresh off fresh off the line. Is it like if Amazon came out and started selling everything on day one, would they have been as successful as starting with books and then evolving to become what they eventually became? So for
Right.
instance, just an example on this is uh, I'll soon be investing in an AI focused company that produces websites, marketing material, and pretty much your bring the company branding set to market.
Okay.
Right. That's one of the investments I'm putting out there on a personal level. And would they, if I were to put that same task to n8n,
Mm-hmm.
are they going to do as good of a job? And I'm guessing not, because you want to have a lot of robust specialization and training for something that something is going to be best at.
Right.
It's kind of like having a great athlete and forcing them to play every sport
Right.
instead of specializing, I think. So maybe that's not going to be the case, and they're going to get enough training material and knowledge built that it's going to be awesome out the gate. And because I just look at a sale coming in as almost social proof, and then we can jack the valuation a little bit.
Mm.
But there have to be better players out there because there are probably 1,000 startups doing the same thing,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean,
I'm not sold on this. Is kind of where I'm headed. If it's going to be the agent for everything, as
yeah.
opposed to a specialized agent in a certain vertical, and then bit by bit they expand.
Yeah.
For instance, I know how to value a bond, but I'm not going to do that for my business right now because I don't want to compete with folks that have been doing that as their core business for
Right.
3 decades.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah. It's a fair point. It's a fair point.
a bit small bit of a rant, but what do you think? I mean,
Look,
do you want to go with the everything guy, or do
yeah.
you want to? Yeah.
Well, look, so I think what I've like kind of reset my expectations of what I would expect out of an AI agent, right? And so like I kind of find these types of tools might be interesting in that context, right? So like the way that I'm starting to think about AI, because I've literally in the last, I would say 60 days, I'm like, man, I got to figure out how to actually like really properly use AI in my business and kind of like take it up a level, right? So I was struggling, frankly, to think about how I could do that without spending like gobs of money or hiring developers to like go bananas on my business, which I could sound like I think very expensive and probably what most small business owners would be thinking as well, right? Like I'm going to pay some developer come in here and pay them like thousands and thousands of dollars to do something, and it probably won't even work. Or in 6 months' time, there'll be some better solution, and then I'll like have like
Right.
effectively
Or they're
jump the
gone.
gun.
Right.
Yeah, which might be, I think, kind of your point. Like there'll be a better app for X, and then that will be the right solution to use like down the road. The way that I guess I'm thinking about this stuff now, and where I see applications for like an n8n, or there's another company called like Make.com, or even Zapier, right? For that matter too, because Zapier's got connectivity into like Claude or Anthropic and others. I think about AI now like a smart 25-year-old, right? So like if I'm doing my research that I publish every week and I want to go and look at the 30, pre-IPO stock companies that I would cover, if I had a really smart 25-year-old research analyst, I'd say like, hey man, every week I need you to deliver to me on like Friday morning 8 interesting things, highlights for the companies that we cover. And I need those to be like the best highlights. And usually I think for the people that follow our research, these are the types of things that seem to do what most well, and what people are most interested in. Like, I need you to deliver that, come up with those 8, and then give it back to me. And I want it on my desk every Friday at 8 a.m. Right? So like you can use these tools to use AI to go do that for you, right? And it will automatically kick it off every Friday. And then, email me the results, and like you can connect it to Gmail and it will email the results to you. So like that's the kind of thing. It's like very specific, right? It's like as if you were talking with a 25-year-old that didn't really know your business, right? You literally have to tell them what to do. They're very smart. So they'll go out and they'll do it and they'll come back to you and you'll be like, these 6 are great, but these 2 are no good. So come back and give me 2 more. And then they'll come back. But the 6 that they gave you were great. And then in time, because of memory and everything else with these AI large language models, like in time, like in 6 months, 9 months time, they'll have figured out like what you like. And then the 8 will be perfect every time they give it to you. Right.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
these
maybe
are going
even
to resonate the most with our audience because over the last 6 months or 18 months, we've seen a growth for top 8 list of this or top 3, right. I
Exactly,
mean, but
man.
that's pretty basic, right?
Well, but that's
You
what I think
you
you
have bigger
do
aspirations, I think, because you
for
want it to track
sure.
everything,
Well, I
right?
think what's interesting is it's the combination of many of those things together, right? And again, it's just like a 25-year-old. So like you break down a task into multiple steps and you're checking it every step of the way because you just don't trust that 25-year-old yet, right? They
Not yet.
haven't proved that they can do it yet, right? So, but over time they get better, they get better, they get better. And then eventually you're 9 months down the road or a year and you're like, look, will you just do this and publish it? Right? Like that's all. Just do this and publish it, and then we're good to go. And I think that's kind of like where I'm at with this stuff. And I think the key is for me, at least for me, using tools like in n8n or make.com or Zapier, right? Is that like
Right.
define those workflows, define those different define those workflows, define the spots where I think this could add value or reduce time for me, right? And then take the time to build that out and then commit to it, just like you would commit to a 25-year-old human. You can't expect them to be perfect right out of the gate. So you're going to have to invest into this thing for like 3 to 6 months. And then it will be good enough where it's like really starting to incrementally add value to your business. But I've just come to the realization, Nick, like I can't just expect this thing to work out of the box. I have to like invest into it. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Well, that's where I feel maybe this is part of that dynamic. If you want it to work out of the box, you've got to grab one that's rather specialized for
Agreed.
marketing or the next thing,
Agreed.
because then it learns from other people that are doing that same task,
Yes,
as opposed to the holistic one where it actually learns most of the job from you.
that's right.
And maybe some are better because then you've got a AGD copycat if
That's
you take the holistic one,
that's right.
as opposed to you're not the best marketer in the world. You're actually really freaking good at it. However, it will learn from so many other marketers
For sure.
in this space, and
For
then
sure.
and give it'll up your own game.
Yeah, that's like
So
super well said. That's like
yeah,
very well said. Like it's like so to me like you're 100% right. Like if I want a great salesperson, it would be best to have a great sales focused large language model that's been trained specifically for that purpose.
right.
And I would still argue though that like the personal context is important. So even though it's like the world's
Yes.
greatest salesperson, you're coming in and now you're selling my product. So you got to get smart on any salesperson would need to get smart on my product. They would need to understand the profile of the customer that is the highest propensity to buy, like all of that stuff, right?
Right.
And then in probably short order, because to your point, that model's been trained on sales, they'll have a much better impact faster than if it was something that was being trained kind of from scratch, right? To go out into the market and deliver value. But I gotta tell you, man, like that, this is the stuff that this nuance, like in my opinion, is where the AI app stuff is really going to start. Like we've been talking about AI apps for a long time and like where the revenue, like investment opportunities will be. This dynamic, like what you just said, is going to start, I think, where AI apps present itself. And I'll give you one example, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Remember Cluely? I brought up Cluely, which was that
Right.
AI app that like watches your screen, your everything, and everything that you do on your computer. It like listens to everything and everything you say and
Yes.
hear and everything you do on your computer. It records that and then it's available for the model. Like this to me is, I could like go in and start to tell this AI agent, research agent, what I'm trying to do and use, n8n and make.com or Zapier to kind of like kick off these like workflows. Or I could just, stand up an instance in Grok or whatever, turn on Cluely and say, hey, just watch me do this for the next 6 months. And then after you've watched me do it, literally stroke by stroke, every conversation, the whole thing, the output, all of it, I just want you to take over and start doing it for me. Right? Like that to me is like the easy button. It's a lot
So
less
yeah,
work. Right? So it's like post training, it's like post model training specific to your personal context. Right? And that to me is so much more interesting. That's a really interesting AI app, like Cluely
right.
in that context. Right?
And the cool part about it is I'm a devout listener to the Founders podcast,
Yeah.
and the way he describes some of these, some of the companies and the founders are, Apple is Steve Jobs with 1,000 lives,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
or that company is this founder with 1,000 lives. Eventually, all of these AI apps are going to allow us to actually arrive to a single person company worth $1 billion.
Oh, I believe that. I believe that
And the
100%.
way
Yeah.
you describe it is actually that way, because it will exude the inner essence of you or me or whoever the person is to do it,
Yep.
and that will
100%.
be a very, very cool moment. Not
But
to go
Nick,
tangential, but I wonder if ever we should be concerned that now you've gone head over heels, and AG Dillon and Co. is wildly successful, and we realize the market is way bigger than you or I, Clint or Evan, ever thought it could be.
right.
And whichever AI apps were used in the creation of yours, you didn't hit the T's and C's right, or you agreed to something you shouldn't. And
They
now it's
got it.
not AGD, but it's BGD comes in.
100%.
Big person stands up your business as a direct competition.
Yeah,
What's
or
going to
the
happen
large
there?
language model. I use Grok, so like Grok decides, oh, like this guy's got it dialed in on this. Like I'm going to take that and now sell it to everybody else, and it's not really a competitive advantage anymore. But
Right.
I just
Yeah,
like
because what did I forget what Elon Musk said about IP being or should be dead, or
I
IP law or something. But yeah, there is a world where it becomes extremely dangerous, and then
yes,
that gets in the way of progress, because if you can't protect your IP, you're not going to take that risk in the first place. So yeah, where there's so much unknown with this, given the power of these AI agents. So
yeah, no,
just
it's true, it's
there's
true. I
there's your
just
bull in your
like I
bear
will
case.
just say this. Yeah, for sure. I will just say this. If folks haven't checked out like an n8n or a make.com or a Zapier and kind of like done a little research around workflows, like I would venture to guess that everybody has some kind of like repetitive task that happens on like a daily or weekly basis. And you should look at automating that with one of these like workflow solutions and AI plus AI, because it's pretty amazing. So I'm not saying it can do 100% of a task, but I bet it could do 80% automatically. So you walk in, if something takes you, like when I do research, I do it every Friday. It takes me 6.5 hours to 7 hours to do it, right, for the week. And I'm now looking at implementing some of these workflows where I think I probably could cut that in half to maybe a third,
And you're
right?
not, as your first port of call, I think this says a lot. I mean, you're pretty with it with this stuff, but you're not trying to hire someone right now,
No,
right?
well,
Your
like
first port of call is going to be this.
no, well, I would say this. I would say this, man. If this was like 10 years ago, I would have hired a 25-year-old already today with the amount that I use AI to like put together
Right.
the research. I would have hired a 25-year-old by now for sure. 100%. Right. So I already have kind of saved that. This would even take it to like another level, right? Where, and this is where you talk about productivity gains, right? So like I would even be able to further do it. Remember, it's like I don't want to do this at all, so I'm going to hire another maybe more senior research person to just do this for me, right? And then it will all just be done, and I won't even have to think about it. So like I'm kind of trending towards that. Or the other way to do it is like, okay, well, now that we can automate everything that we've been doing, I can now even do some more thoughtful research or some deeper research or some whatever, like I'll write a white paper every month, on a particular topic and spend my kind of discretionary time now doing those things. So like, it's just to your point around a one person company that has $1 billion valuation, which I'm not saying this company I have is going to have $1 billion valuation, but I can see it in my own business, how like someone who is really sharp on this stuff could take every type of business function, business channel, HR, ops, tech, whatever, like, you know what I mean? Sales, marketing, et cetera, and like automate things.
It's possible.
Yeah, for sure.
It will happen.
Yeah. I think we're definitely getting there. Right. So,
Right.
So anyway, yeah. So if you haven't checked out n8n or make.com or Zapier in this context, I highly encouraged. And that's why I think this company is going from 350 million to 2.3 billion, because it's like kind of like the easy button for small business owners to start to implement AI into their operations, right? And even if it's in, the smallest, most non-sophisticated way, there's still like real tangible benefit. You know what I mean? It costs like nothing. Zapier is like $20 a month. So if I can pay $20 a month and it can save me on a monthly basis, like a full day's worth of work, oh my gosh, that's nuts. That's nuts.
Incredible.
Yeah. So that's definitely worth it.
And just almost a parting thought here. If it could be that one person company getting that much productivity out, of oneself and automating it away, it's probably going to start as a bootstrapped company.
Yeah.
It's just going to compound on itself. And we won't even know when it blows through the $1 billion valuation,
right?
Unless they start taking that money in, and they might take it once it's at 2.
It's true.
There are going to be a lot of sneaky, incredibly profitable revenue producing companies out there with one person at the helm.
Yeah, it's well said.
If they're not there, they're already there today, but I feel we're paving the way for it to be so much more profound in the current market. So,
it's a great time. It's a great time to be an entrepreneur. This stuff is going to make it so much fun. So, all right, Nick, this is awesome, buddy.
Thank you.
I like having it just you and me. I like the other guys. Don't get me wrong.
I should have popped over.
I like the other guys. Don't get me wrong. But this is a good time. Always good to talk shop, bro. Appreciate it, man.
Likewise.
All right, man. I'll talk to you.